Hey guys, welcome back to the Golf at Night podcast. Today we'll be talking about a field trip that our group did to the Mote Marine Lab in Southwest Florida. It's a great laboratory funded by different organizations that find mitigations and resilience and issues along the nature and species along the Gulf Coast and in our Gulf. So we got to take a field trip there and talk to some scientists. So today we'll be exploring a little bit of what we learned and what's going on there.
Tell me, what was it like going into such a large facility?
I think that's pretty interesting. I've never been to a research lab before. And just being able to go there and see everyone doing their own thing. We saw some students doing some projects. That was really awesome. And getting to see both everyone from different fields doing their own thing, contributing to each other's research and work, and everybody working together to try and help the environment, try and help stop red tide is one of the big ones. Stop red tide. It was just really interesting. I've never been to a place like that. I've never seen people like this, like who are experts in their field using this research and technology, um, for advance their field.
It was awesome seeing the different projects and knowing that if you put them all together, it would ultimately create a large ecosystem. But to individualize them and work on them separately, it really particulates each species. So while visiting the lab, we saw a lot of different projects. We saw their aquaculture lab, which is one of the biggest in Florida, which produces all different sort of fish for the state, whether it's go back into the ecosystem or for food purposes for us humans, or even the Georgia Aquarium. We saw their coral banks where they grow all different species of coral and collect their genes. We saw their mangrove station where they grow and give mangroves out for the ecosystems, their seagrass, um, their harmful algae blooms as well, their toxicology lab, and all sorts of things. So, which one were you guys' favorites?
Honestly, I'd say the toxicology lab was really interesting to me because I'm someone who always likes and appreciates the technology. Um, so seeing first of all the hardware they had there, which was super expensive, but seeing how they were using that to look at the samples they had and then be able to see, okay, this is this much red tide bloom, and then be able to send it to state and keep the public safe, right? I found it was very interesting how that one lab, how the people working that contribute so much to public safety and health. And also, we talked a little bit to the guy who was working there, and I found it really impressive that he managed to pretty much yeah, teach himself the software needed to use those machines within the span of like a couple of months, right?
Dr. Chris?
Yeah, because the last person he replaced wasn't able to teach him before he left, so he had to kind of learn on his own. So that was very impressive.
I am the analytical chemist that works in the ecotox department. My job is essentially to take all of the samples that get extracted, and once we have those toxins or whatever we're looking at isolated and concentrated, the question is how do we actually measure that, and how do we quantify how much toxin is in that sample? Essentially what we have here is all of our instruments that are going to be measuring those toxins or whatever analytes that we're looking at. So we can come on in here. It's kind of tight, so I'll squeeze in. We have a few different instruments here. The main kind of, I would say, workhorse of our lab is this guy right here. So this is throw some science words at you. This is a triple quadrupole mass spectrometer, okay? So that's just a fancy way of saying that this is what measures our toxins, right?
That laboratory was really special, I think, especially because they got to process those water samples and test them for toxic contaminants during the night. They didn't even have to be there in the lab, and the machine would process it overnight. So they'd come out in the morning and they could process all those things and then be able to protect our public, send it to our governments, see if the beaches are safe or not. So I thought that was really special.
So it's good to know that Dr. Chris works very closely with the government when it comes to water quality, as we do live in Florida and we are surrounded by a large body of water. So it's also very, very comforting to know that our government does actually care about the health of their citizens, because Dr. Chris, he reports back to the government about the water quality, if there's too much toxins, or whether or not they should shut down the local beaches. And the government, it's not like they're saying, well, tourism, the money. No, they actually take it seriously. They listen to Dr. Chris, they listen to the Mote Lab, and they shut down the beaches until the water quality has regulated.
If any of our listeners are interested in seeing different toxins or see if there's any harmful algae blooms in your water, there are maps you can find online provided free for use that shows the different toxins in our water in real time. In the toxicology lab, we talked to Dr. Toyota and her other scientists on the research they're doing on the toxins in our water. They take cells from sea turtles and they take human lung cells and they actually study to see what effects these toxins have on the human body, on our marine life, and see what harm they're doing. So it's a really important lab, and I'm glad we got to talk to them and see what they had to say.
So there's all types of things that we can understand from looking at cells and culture that will lead us to gain insight about how contaminants are actually affecting us as whole human beings to cause diseases.
Just to piggyback what Mikey said, we did learn from the Mote Marine Laboratory from Liz Longstreet that they are funded by the state of Florida to fight against red tide that is against affecting our beaches in the Gulf Coast.
And so to stay time really wanted some solutions as to how can we combat the negative impacts from red tide. So the state Governor DeSantis actually created the red tide initiative. It's in Florida statute to find mitigation control technologies to actually kill the Carina brevis cells and reduce the toxins that it produces.
Okay, so going back to the theme at night, of the Gulf at night, we actually learned a lot from Eve about how they're simulating nighttime and daytime to grow baby corals at their lab.
Coral Gene Bank is really focusing on just storing and housing different coral genotypes from the Florida Reef Tract and making sure they're healthy and that we can use them if ever needed. Unlike fish, coral can only spawn once a year. It's on a full moon in August/September. Since it's at a full moon, that means it's starting to get into the nighttime. And our scientists don't want to be here overnight, every night waiting for coral to spawn. So they start to switch their day and night schedules. They have a super advanced system that can control like light, moonlight, temperature, salinity. And they have these blackout curtains and they can start to trick the coral into thinking day is night and night is day. So they can watch them during their regular hours here when they're doing their other work.
So that was our time at the Mote Marine Lab. Make sure you guys support your local researchers. And in our next episode, we will be diving into Venice Beach to talk with a local legend, Stuart. See you later.
Bye-bye.